Greetings. Welcome to the September 2004 regular meeting of the Jacksonville Planning Advisory Board. Before I bang the gavel to call this meeting to order, it would be important to note this is the first time in probably a couple dozen years when either Homer Spring or Dr. Doug Lazan is not chairing this committee. So, gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for your dedication and service to our city.
Thank you. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Calling the meeting to order. If you would, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you would bow with me. Heavenly Father, the great planner of the universe, we'd ask that you impart to us the wisdom to make great choices and great decisions for our community. We ask also that you bless those men and women that serve in harm's way this day on our behalf. Amen. If the board has had a chance to review the agenda that is proposed for this evening.
Motion to approve the agenda is presented.
We have a motion by Homer Spring.
Second.
Got a second by Grace. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, we have an agenda. If you've had a chance to review the minutes from our last meeting of August 12th, if you believe them to be in order, I would accept a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes from the August 12th meeting.
Second.
Dr. Doug Lazan has made a motion, and Homer Spring has seconded that motion. So all in favor of approving the minutes from August 12th, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Moving right along. All right. Before I turn this over to our councilman, I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to chair this. We are charged with recommending to our elected board of city council that our best recommendations of those issues that are brought before us by the city staff, by business people, by developers, and the citizens of our great community. We do this without passion or prejudice and strive to fairly meet the challenges of our growing city by advocating for change where it makes sense and resisting change that is unduly impacting property owners. Ideally, we search for an outcome that will serve all parties and the community. So thank you to my fellow board members. Appreciate your willingness to serve, and certainly our planning staff, Jeremy and Ryan, and our city councilman, Councilman Sosa. And a great segue to your report, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's hard to believe we're already in October, and so, or we'll about to be in October, and National Night Out will be October 1st. As a reminder, we got pushed back from all the rain, and so, what was it, July? August. Correct. Yep. Thank you. And so we got rained out there, so the makeup will be in October 1st, and then the nice thing, it will not be nearly as hot as it usually is for National Night Out. So hopefully I'll get more people out, and we'll have nice fireworks, and pretty much the same agenda as always, but just on October 1st. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Sosa. I noticed there is no old business, so we'll go right to new business. And who will be, Jeremy will be briefing us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Agenda item number 1 is a proposed zoning. Notice I didn't say rezoning, but it is a zoning submitted by B&M Developers, LLC. This is proposed for 3 parcels totaling approximately 40.87 acres on the recently satellite annexation of property along Jim Parker Road. You'll notice that the existing zoning is all white. This property is still subject to Onslow County zoning, at least from 60 days since its annexation by City Council. It is surrounded by properties all within Onslow County's zoning jurisdiction. They are requesting that this property be zoned residential multifamily high density. If this zoning were to be approved, the CAMA land use plan would be updated and reflected as such as high-density residential. And the proposed zoning map would be updated to reflect this, a satellite annexation. Satellite annexation that actually extends beyond our ETJ as well. Again, this is for approximately 40.87 acres. It was annexed in August by the city council and is under its timeline given by the state statutes to establish city zoning within 60 days. With all that being said, staff is advising the Planning Advisory Board to recommend that city council approve the map amendment, request accepting the evaluation found within the staff report based on findings of fact, A through J, being found in the affirmative, that the zoning brings the property into compliance with the City of Jacksonville's Unified Development Ordinance, or UDO. Representatives from Tidewater and Associates, the applicant's surveyor, and staff are happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Jeremy, it doesn't look like there's a lot of questions. So it was never zoned before because it didn't belong in the city?
Correct.
Right.
It is under county zoning, and if, for whatever reason, if the city were to fail to zone it, it would then revert to the closest zoning district that the city has to match the current county zoning. But this is an opportunity for the city to step in and do a planning effort on recently annexed property.
Will that road be a city road going to it?
No, sir, that will remain NCDOT.
Is there any sewer costs or anything that the city would take on by changing this to high-density residential?
It all depends on the development. With the satellite annexation comes extension of city utilities to the property. And then depending on the type of development, which could be single-family to multifamily, there is always that revenue.
Anyone else have any questions for Jeremy on this topic?
Mr. Chairman, I would just kind of, to follow up on that a little bit, we've had some recent development that's there at Drummer Kellum that you can see here where it says single-family RSF 20. There's recent development that we've seen happen there, or it's in the process, and then right below that we have Harvest Meadows. So we already have a city lift station that's in that area. The infrastructure's been run out there. I think what you're going to see is the developer of this tract of land will run the infrastructure to connect those two together at the developer's cost. The city does have things called cost recovery agreements. If they oversize the pipes for other future development, if it happens within a certain time frame, they can recoup some of that money. If it happens, sometimes it doesn't. We recently had a situation where the time period kind of expired, so that original developer is not going to get any cost recovery back. But there is processes in place. But like Jeremy mentioned, that's things that we get into when the development comes in after the rezoning. So a lot of those things we really don't have a lot of direct knowledge of, but I would expect the developer to pay for those costs to make those connections.
So is this going to be city or county water?
This should be city water and sewer,
Okay, that's-
based on the annexation. However,
No, it pushes out to county.
right, sometimes the city has agreements with UNWASA. So once again, I'm making a little bit of an assumption that it would be city water and sewer. It may be that it falls underneath where it will be city sewer and UNWASA water through that agreement that the city works out with UNWASA. So once again, once we get into the development phase, we'll know more about that. The biggest thing is council annexed this property in and we need to establish zoning. And based on that, we've talked with the owner of the property in terms of assigning a zoning, and this is what their desire was, and we believe that that's appropriate. So that's how we came up with that district.
So currently, is the city able to take on that load as it becomes water and sewer? Do we have that capacity?
Based on the fact that we annex the property, when that type of analysis happens, hopefully, to my knowledge, that was reviewed.
Okay.
Because if we couldn't have supported it, I don't know that we would have suggested that we annex the property.
Because I know that's something in the past we've had to look at growth-wise, if it's sustainable or how we have to make some changes.
And, I mean, that may be something where either Mr. Houston or the owners might be able to provide more direct information on that, contrary to what I've said,
Right.
but
Well, like you said, it depends on the project too,
Mm-hmm.
so,
Since we don't have details. Yeah.
yep.
I have a question. Based on maximum usage for this land, what are the most numbers of, what's the largest numbers of residents or buildings you may have in this area? I'm asking that for traffic. I know there'll be a traffic impact analysis probably at some point in time, but
Jeremy, have you run those numbers already?
I know it's only 40 acres, but it is multifamily.
I mean, if you go based on 3,000 square feet minimum lot size for single family, is what's 44 acres?
Yeah, the RMF HD zoning allows 16 units per acre. However, that does not take into account land designated for driveways, streets, utilities, any environmental issues. But that would be the maximum density at 40.87 times just the 16. Could be, I mean, just say the property could be maximized at 653 multifamily units. Is that feasible and possible? No. There's just too much infrastructure that has to go in to support a development. You may see somewhere within a third of that number or less.
So with the proposed, where's it gonna tie in with the new proposed roadway? Where's it gonna come in on Ramsey Road?
It is going to, as of right now, Mr. Houston may want to levy in, but as far as I am aware, we have not seen a project proposed on this, but it will access on Jim Parker Road.
Where?
On Jim Parker Road.
Yeah.
Oh, that's that, but I'm
Yes.
talking about future coming, the connection coming out with the bypass.
I don't know, we've actually been privy to that information. That it seems to be a moving target within CDOT at the moment.
But isn't that on the side of Drummer Kellen Road,
So
on the other side? The
Yeah, the
bottom?
Parkway would be a little east of Drummer Kellum Road, yes.
Okay.
I'm not aware of the long-term plans impacting this site.
Okay.
Depending on the numbers that are proposed with any development, if it meets the city's trip threshold, they would have to do a traffic impact analysis. And if it's within so many feet of a DOT project, that's an automatic traffic impact analysis or some type of traffic review.
All right, well, I'd like to make a motion to grant the rezoning upon finding that the rezoning is reasonable, considering one or more of the findings of fact A through J being found in the affirmative, and that the rezoning advances the public interest.
We have a motion?
Second.
Over. Got a second on that one? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. That's one. Number two, Jeremy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Agenda item 2 is an actual rezoning submitted by Rose Family Properties. This request is at 3155 New Bern Highway. It is on the map before you. The existing zoning is residential multifamily low density. It is bordered to the south and southwest by properties also zoned residential multifamily low density, or RMF LD. Property to the north and across, to the north of the property and across New Bern Highway are zoned corridor commercial. The proposed rezoning of the 2.63 acre tract is to rezone it to corridor commercial. The Camden Land Use Plan identifies this and all adjacent properties other than those to the direct west as multi-use. The property to the direct west is undeveloped but is identified as low-density residential. The map before you is what zoning would look like if the property were to be rezoned. This zoning would be consistent with recent rezonings that the city has approved in the area. And as a developing trend along New Bern Highway, as we see more commercial and higher density type developments. With that being said, staff is advising the Planning Advisory Board to recommend the City Council approve this rezoning request. accepting that the evaluation found within the staff report, based on findings of fact A through J, being found in the affirmative, that the rezoning advances the public interest by creating more development opportunities. To perhaps bring more familiarity with the property, it is where the Country Time Bar is, and this rezoning, if it were to be approved, would have no impact on its non-conforming status. It's a non-conforming use today. It would be a non-conforming use tomorrow if this property were to be rezoned. Tidewater and Associates are representatives of the applicant. Along with staff, would be happy to answer any questions that the board has.
I see some residential along Highway 17, but I can't imagine that nowadays people would prefer to have residential along a major thoroughfare like that. Is that a fair statement?
I think that trend against our major thoroughfares, we are seeing the reduction of homes along those US 17, Marine, New Bern Highway, Wilmington Highway, Gum Branch Road, as you are within the city. Now, there's lots of homes as you progress north towards Richlands. Also Belfort Road and Henderson Drive.
Anybody have any questions on this one?
Make a motion that we approve the rezoning request to commercial corridor based on findings of facts A through J.
And we have a second. So Dr. Lozan made the motion. Grace seconded that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say no. Motion carries. Number 3.
One more. Let's see, am I missing a slide there? But I'll introduce this. This is agenda item number 3. This is a proposed Unified Development Ordinance, UDO text amendment to Article 5, Development Standards, Section 5.2, Landscaping Standards, Part F, Buffer Yards, specifically buffer yards as they deal with downtown zoning. Currently, as many of the board members may be aware, that when you have zoning that is the same, two properties, we'll use corridor commercial in this instance, next door to corridor commercial, when one property develops, they do not have to put in a buffer. Currently, as the ordinance is written, if you have downtown business developed next door to downtown business, a type B buffer is required. So that would be a 15-foot buffer on either side of the property, which staff agrees with the applicant in this case, who is Tidewater and Associates, that is inconsistent with what the ordinance has done in the other zoning districts. So with this request, we are proposing to separate downtown business and downtown residential in our buffer table, where they, when proposed beside each other, DTB and DTB, or DTR and DTR, would not trigger a buffer. You would still have a buffer triggered when you had downtown residential next to downtown business, but not when you have the same zoning next to each other. I hope that made sense.
Yeah. I mean, it seems reasonable.
Yes.
Is that what I'm interpreting correctly?
Staff believes this is a text amendment to get behind. We support it, and we think that it adds consistency in the Unified Development Ordinance. With that said, we are recommending that the Planning Advisory Board recommend City Council approve this. That is consistent with the adopted CAMA plan, policy 44.3, that it maintains policies and regulations that promote consistency and predictability in the development process. Tidewater and Associates submitted this application. They, along with staff, would be happy to answer any questions that the Planning Advisory Board has.
And to be clear, in my mind, and probably for those sitting here, this is only applicable to like zoning.
Correct.
So, yeah.
The only time that does not really impact is with our residential residential mobile home. They do trigger buffers in all cases. But that was adopted several years ago when we adopted that new zoning district. That's why when you look at this table, other than that, you do see a diagonal line across it that says NA, and that's where your like zonings all cross each other.
If commercial corridor and downtown business are together, do they have to have a buffer as well?
Currently, yes, there would be a 30-foot buffer under the type A. That way, the DTB would put in a 15 on their side if they develop next to CC, or a 30-foot on theirs, and CC would do a 30-foot on theirs. And the reason that exists is because residential is still permitted in the downtown business district. Whereas residential other than multifamily is not permitted. And when I say residential, I should clarify single-family residential. Because you could have a case where you have downtown business and it's developed as single-family next door to corridor commercial or office, institutional, or industrial. There really are no cases of that, but it's possible. And that's why we did not propose to change that. But I do understand where that question probably goes towards is you do have commercial next to commercial.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Would it make sense while we're amending this to just let corridor commercial and downtown business be next to each other? I mean, why?
Ryan, could they make that part of their recommendation?
I think you certainly could if, I mean, that's what you'd like
Do you
to
see
do.
a problem with that? I mean, I'm having trouble finding it, but
On the surface, I don't know that there's a problem. You know, that may be something to where we'd rather take it back and make sure that we're not creating any issues and bring it back. Since this is an applicant request, when we start making additional changes, that could cause things to derail. I
He didn't
think it's a great point, and I would rather, you know, we look at that and bring it back to you, because it makes sense. On the surface, I would say, yeah, let's do it, but I would want to just double check.
Okay.
I would want to analyze that.
good catch, Chase. Ryan, would it be reasonable to, if we believe this to be prudent, to vote on this as a recommendation and then bring that other one back in addition to this, or wait and do them all?
I think I would go ahead and do this, and then we'll bring back the other one after we have an opportunity to evaluate.
Good catch.
Makes sense.
Because there may be one or two others that we need to look at. This is something that Jeremy and I, we struggle with all the time. You know, we get a specific request like this one. If we start adding things to it,
No.
you could end up derailing a request by somebody else.
Right.
Doesn't mean we don't need to think about it. When we've talked about, do we bring two different attachments? One is what the applicant's requesting, the second one's what staff wants. I think the best thing to do would be just, we'll bring something back after we have an opportunity to evaluate, because there may be something where we say, well, that's a great idea. However, if we do that, here's a negative aspect to it. And we just haven't analyzed that aspect. So we certainly can bring that back to the board and will.
Cool.
Well, I think that's a smart way of doing it. That way you're not feel rushed.
Yep.
And then you haven't put yourself in a corner that you can't get out of.
Right. We don't want to disadvantage somebody by trying to do a good thing and find out later that it has potential.
Yep, we'll
With
take
that,
a look
we're
at
only
that.
talking about this one that has been presented. Anybody care to speak up?
Motion to approve the proposed amendment consistent with the adopted CAMA plan. The amendment is reasonable and is in the public interest. And
Second.
so I move that we approve it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That motion carries. You're 3 for 3, Jeremy. Nice work, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, I was,
Before you do your report, Ryan, I'd ask that,
if I can.
Oh.
Can I get the, who made the motion in the second there?
Homer made the motion and Dr. Lazan seconded.
Okay. Thank you.
You good? Okay, before I turn it over to you, we're going to start a little thing called Tidbits of Good Information from Ryan. Ryan, can you explain to us, in 2 minutes or less, the difference between a non-conforming and an illegal something as related to city regulations for our planning purposes?
Absolutely. So the best way to look at it is an illegal uses or illegal whatever it is, because it could be an illegal use, it could be an illegal lot, it could be illegal whatever. That's something that's done without the approvals. And that's just, doesn't meet standards, it wasn't done per the
Cannot
proper
be
channels.
grandfathered.
It is not grandfathered, it's illegal. A non-conforming, which is the technical term for grandfathering, is something that is legal, then the code changes, that makes them non-conforming. So they were legal, the code was then changed, which basically put them into non-conforming status. An illegal land use or illegal structure, that's illegal.
Sign use?
It could be a sign situation that's illegal.
It was like that bar that we just talked about on 17, when we switched that land.
Correct. So let's say that it was, we went the other way. If we were going from commercial to residential, and let's say it was a conforming bar, then switching it to residential would make that non-conforming.
Sure.
So we would basically, in the assessment, say we would be creating a non-conformity. We've done that before where it was commercial. No, there was a house there, it was residential, they wanted to go to commercial, and commercial doesn't allow the single family, as alluded to a few minutes ago. So when that zoning was approved, or rezoning was approved, it made that house non-conforming. So if that house now, catches on fire, and burns to the ground, they won't be able to rebuild a house back in the place. So, when that situation happens, and my 2 minutes is probably getting close, if they've asked for it, we kind of say, look, that's what you're kind of creating. And if they want to go through with it, then they're kind of doing that on their own. But illegal is something not permitted, doesn't matter about the codes, it's illegal, versus one that was a legally established whatever, the code changed, which now makes it non-conforming. It could be a non-conforming site feature, non-conforming use, non-conforming lot, several different things. That's all identified in Article 7 of the UDO.
Well done, thank you.
You're welcome.
I would think that something like that is beneficial to those folks that are watching us on TV as well, because we use terms like non-conforming, and now I appreciate putting some context to it.
Yes, sir.
Great day.
All right, ready for the rest of my reports?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I got 4 items. So number 1, the agenda item 1 that you all recommended approval of tonight will go forward to City Council next Tuesday night for a public hearing. That's kind of on a faster pace just because of the annexation. We wanted to go ahead and get city zoning established. The other 2 items, 2 and 3, will be in front of City Council, Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, on October the 22nd for a public hearing. Number 2, not that, obviously planning board was next Monday, then I would tell you next Monday. But so this coming Saturday, other than ECU taking on App State, hopefully winning, does anybody else know what Saturday is? It's the 14th of September. That will mark the 15th anniversary that this guy here beside me, Mr. Jeremy Smith, has been with the city. So I'd like to thank Jeremy for his loyal and devoted service to the city of Jacksonville and the citizens for almost 15 years now.
Hear, hear.
He's too young for 15 years.
That's just here. That doesn't count the years before that he was other places.
Wow.
Because this wasn't Jeremy's first stop. He was at Pitt County, Johnston County, Benson, Pamlico.
I've been in this 24 years.
Well, I'm glad he found a job he could keep.
All right, so number 3, just want to let the board and the general public know that Monday, I guess it's now been 2 or 3 weeks. Time's flying when you're having fun. Jennifer Ansell started her employment with the city of Jacksonville as our chief code enforcement officer. Jennifer has been in the planning field for quite a few years now. She's served most recently as the director of planning for the town of Atlantic Beach. Before that, she was the director, I believe, planner with the town of Swansboro. Before that, she was the chief zoning environmental officer for Onslow County from 2015 to 2019. And before that, she was with Swansboro for about 10 years. So been in Swansboro and Onslow County for quite a few years. Great addition to our staff. She's kind of hit the ground running, and we're glad to have her on board. And the last item that I had tonight would be to inform the board and public that on August the 19th, we received, or it was effective on the 19th, we received a resignation notice from Mr. Steve Forney after many, many years of service. And we just wanted to use this opportunity to thank him for those years of service. Most recently as a planning board member, as a dual rostered, as some of you are. He's our NESAC representative to the board. So he's serving both NESAC and Planning Advisory Board.
Is that an acronym?
It is. It is the Neighborhood Improvement Services Advisory Committee. And So he was kind of a dual rostered board member. And we hate to see him go, but I think they're going to enjoy time, traveling abroad and spending time with grandkids and those that are, I think he's got them spread out with a couple of states between Nebraska and Ohio and here. And so it's time for him to hang it up, and we appreciate his service that he has given the citizens of Jacksonville for many, many years. And, he will be sorely missed. And although it's a little bit early to say, from what I understand, there has been a replacement named by the Neighborhood Improvement Services Advisory Committee Board, and then it'll be up to the council members to make a decision on whether to move that person on as a full-time voting member to our now vacant spot. So we will have hopefully a new member next month, and big shoes to fill. But we want to thank Mr. Forney for his service and wish him well.
You're here.
That's all that I have, Mr. Chairman. Planning board
Thank you
members.
very much, Ryan. If it is the board's pleasure, we would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Grace has made a motion to adjourn. Anybody object? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.